Hi, I'm Michelle with the Garrett Public Library, and I'll be doing this week's Railroader reading. I am just going to read a couple short stories out of the November 2022 Reader's Digest. Just a few little positive stories. The first one is called How to Find Awe in Everyday Life. We associate the emotion with rare experiences, but people in our daily lives can make us feel it too. And this is by Elizabeth Bernstein. During the summer of 2021, Beverly Wax had an experience that filled her with awe. It wasn't a sunset, a sweeping mountain vista, or the sound of waves gently lapping on a beach that got to her. It was the sight of her son, Justin, lugging an 80-pound portable air conditioner up 3 flights of stairs to her Boston area condo. Wax's central air conditioning had conked out the day before in the middle of a 90-plus degree heat wave. She had mentioned to her son that she was having trouble finding someone to come fix it quickly. He'd shown up with the new unit as a surprise. As she watched him sweat and struggle while hauling the unit up the stairs and installing it in her bedroom, Wax says she felt a wave of gratitude and appreciation for her son. The AC touched me greatly, says Wax, a writer and administrative assistant for a nonprofit that helps seniors. We're living through trying times. Almost every day, it seems, we're presented with new evidence of how annoying, inconsiderate, or downright awful others can be. The people who let the door slam in your face, or the ones who put their speakerphones on in public. So it's easy to forget that people can be awesome too. Awe is that feeling we get when something is so vast it stops us in our tracks. Often, it challenges or expands our thinking. Research shows that awe experiences decrease stress and anxiety and increase positive emotions and overall satisfaction in life, according to Dr. Keltner, PhD, a professor of psychology at the University of California, Berkeley, who studies awe. It can also help our relationships, making us feel more compassionate and less greedy, more supported by and more likely to help others. Most of us associate awe with something rare and beautiful, nature, music, or a spiritual experience. But people can trigger awe too, and not just public heroes like first responders or famous people such as athletes or astronauts. Research shows that we can be awed by our nearest and dearest, the people sitting next to us on the couch, chatting on the other end of the phone, gazing back at us over Zoom. Psychologists call this interpersonal awe. You don't need to go into orbit or to a museum or a national park, says David B. Yaden, PhD, a research fellow at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine Center for Psychedelic and Consciousness Research. It's in your home. Often, this interpersonal awe is a response to life's big sweeping changes, such as witnessing a baby's first steps. For Lynn Hetty, a retired educator in Nashville, Tennessee, it's watching a friend fight ovarian cancer and still relish life. Jeffrey Davis, a business consultant in Accord, New York, says the awe he felt watching his mom reunite with her estranged mother and take care of her as she struggled with dementia made him think more carefully about his own relationships. Rich Melheim, an educator and publisher in Stillwater, Minnesota, says he was blown away when his father, who had Alzheimer's, suddenly remembered his name and gave him a blessing shortly before he died. But interpersonal awe happens in smaller moments too. John Bard, a psychologist and professor who lives in Guilford, Connecticut, said he was truly awestruck, the jaw-dropping, mouth-open, semi-stunned effect, by his then 5-year-old daughter while dining with her in a McDonald's a number of years ago. When she heard another child crying across the restaurant, she grabbed the toy from her Happy Meal, walked over to the boy, and handed it to him, he says. Unfortunately, we can't make someone else behave in a way that's awesome, but we can prime ourselves to notice it when they do and take steps to boost the emotion's positive effects. And here's how. Question your assumptions. Do you believe your partner is insensitive or your sibling is selfish? There may be a little truth to that, but it's never the whole tale. The story you tell yourself gets in the way of catching people at their best, says Mariana Graziosi, an assistant instructor of positive psychology at the University of Pennsylvania. To increase your chances of feeling awed by the other person, Graziosi suggests you ask yourself what's going on in his or her life that you don't know about. Can you come up with examples of how that person is helping others or doing something positive? In other words, she says, become a field scientist like Jane Goodall. Name awe when you see it. Blurting out, wow, that was awesome, is a simple way to help you identify and remember a special experience. Savor it in the moment, pay attention to all the details, then tell others about it. This will reinforce your positive emotions, says Yaden. And recall it or write about it later. Studies showed that awe can be elicited again simply by remembering an awe-inspiring experience. Thank the person who awed you. This makes the other person feel good and can give your relationship a boost. And it will help you too. Studies show that people who practice gratitude have significantly higher levels of happiness and psychological well-being than those who don't. After Beverly Wax's son delivered and installed the air conditioner, she made sure he knew just how much his actions affected her. I've learned to be grateful for the simple daily things, she says. And who knows, when you thank the people in your life for awing you, they just might want to do it again and again. That's the end of that story. I have another short story about a dog who did just something absolutely amazing. His name is Darby. He's a pit bull. Cute little guy. It says here, Darby the pit bull fights off shark. Yes, shark. To save his owner. This is sent in by Bill Hangley Jr. Everyone wanted a piece of the dog that got a piece of the shark. I got emails from people in Russia. One guy offered me 100 euros. Another guy found me at work and offered me 575 cash right now. I said, keep walking, buddy. James White says of the offers he got for his dog, Darby. It got to the point where I started saying, no, 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 that is not me. When White, a 43-year-old security agent from Rohnert Park, California, snagged the pit bull puppy in 2018, Darby was just another four-legged lug, young, friendly, playful, strong as an ox. Then in the summer of 2019 came Darby's date with destiny. White was fishing in Northern California's Bodega Bay. He left Darby, then a year old and 100 pounds, to chill in the parked car, windows down, while he cast his line a few yards away. The fish weren't biting, White recalls, until suddenly they were. At first, White thought he had hooked a stingray, but as he reeled it in, he realized it was a 7-gill shark, about 6 feet long, not uncommon, but still dangerous. Their teeth are gnarly, White says. He brought it close and carefully unhooked it, expecting it to swim away. It didn't. The shark clamped down on his ankle. All of a sudden, there was blood everywhere, says White. He yelled for help, hoping the fishermen down the beach could hear, but they didn't seem to know what was going on. Fortunately, Darby did. He hurled himself out of the car and down the embankment toward the water. He ran right up to the shark and sank his teeth into its gills. Just show you his picture one more time. There's Darby. That just made the shark bite down harder, White said. Darby backed off, then regrouped and latched onto the shark's tail. The shark released its grip, and White managed to push it into the shallow water where it swam off. The whole thing took less than a minute, White says, but it left plenty of damage. White was able to stop the bleeding and get to a hospital where he learned that an artery was punctured and nearly severed. That would have been the end of it had Darby's story not gone viral. White was contacted by NBC News and CNN. That's when the countless cash offers started to come in. But the big dog was not for sale. He had another job to do. At the time of the attack, White lived with his parents, James Sr. and Pam. When White's mother passed in early 2022, Darby and James Sr. became inseparable. Being James Sr.'s best buddy has been Darby's greatest gift to the family. We were worried. Sometimes when one parent goes, the other can really get depressed. But I know that Darby's here, so I don't worry, says White. Today, White's shark bite is long healed, but Darby, a.k.a. the house hippo, is a bigger hero than ever. All he wants is to be surrounded by his humans, says White. If my dad makes a hamburger, Darby gets a hamburger with a bun. That's his best day, and he's got it made. Pit bulls have a bad reputation, but they'll give their life to save yours, White says. Someone could offer me $1 million for him, and I wouldn't take it. I've got time, I think, for one more short one. Is about Milo. Here's a picture of Milo. Maybe a cutie. A trapped neighbor was afraid no one would hear her cries for help, but Milo did. This one's by John Kelly. Milo is a rescue dog adopted by 20-year-old Michaela Swift, but the Beagle is also a rescuer. One morning in November 2021, Swift opened her front door in Silver Spring, Maryland, and Milo took off running. Milo ran to the house across the street. He seemed unsatisfied with this house, so he ran to the one next door, Swift on his tail. He started scratching on the front door, Swift says. I'm thinking, why is he literally trying to break into her house? She was embarrassed. Not everyone wants a strange dog on their property. But as she tried to drag Milo away, she could hear a sound coming through an open upstairs window. It was a voice yelling, help. Hours earlier, around 4 a.m., Sherry Starr had risen from her bed. All of a sudden, standing there between the toilet and the tub, I slipped. I went down hard on the tile floor. And Sherry is 85. She was stuck. I could not move at all, says Starr, who was wedged between the toilet and the tub. Starr was scared. I'm thinking, I'm just going to die here, she says. Her best bet, she decided, was to listen for the letter carrier in the afternoon and scream like the Dickens. For the next few hours, Starr practiced yelling, help, help, help. Her voice was very faint, says Swift. You had to be right at the front door to hear Mrs. Starr yell for help. Unless you were Milo the Beagle, who apparently heard Starr the instant Swift opened her own front door. All right, Milo. Swift called 911. Paramedics thought they'd have to remove the toilet to dislodge Starr, but they gave one last pull and out she popped. Though bruised and battered, Starr declined a trip to the hospital. Swift has known her share of distress. 2 years ago, her mother died. She says Milo has helped her with her grief. That dog is a blessing, she says. Those are just a few stories about just positive things and gratitude. With Thanksgiving coming up here in a few days, it just seemed kind of appropriate. And I hope everyone is safe and well and that you all have a happy Thanksgiving.